Today, we delve into one of the most shocking and gruesome crimes in Australian history. This is the case of Katherine Mary Knight, a woman whose brutal crime made headlines for its unimaginable cruelty. Her story is not for the faint of heart, but it's a tale that demands to be told. So buckle up, because this is the journey into the darkest corners of women's psyche. Katherine Mary Knight was born on October 24, 1955, in Tenterfield, New South Wales. Katherine Mary Knight had a life far from ordinary. Her father was a violent alcoholic, and her mother was often absent, leaving Katherine and her siblings to fend for themselves. The tension in the Knight household escalated when Katherine was just 11 years old, and her father passed away. However, his death didn't bring peace. It seemed to spark something darker within Katherine. Catherine's adult relationships were equally messy. She had a series of partners, but her behavior grew increasingly violent with each one. Knight first met co-worker David Stanford Kellett in 1973 and got married in 1974. On their wedding night, Knight tried to strangle Kellett. She later explained it was because he fell asleep after only having intercourse 3 times. Even Knight mothers gave Kellett some advice, saying, Kellett, better watch this one or she will kill you. She has got screw loose somewhere. In May 1976, shortly after the birth of their first child, Garrett left Knight for another woman and moved to Queensland. Apparently unable to cope with the abuse, the next day Knight was seen pushing newborn baby in a stroller down the main street, aggressively throwing the stroller from side to side. She was admitted to St. Elmo's Hospital in Tamworth, where she was diagnosed with postnatal depression. After being released, Knight placed 2-month-old baby on a railway line shortly before the train passed, but an old man found and rescued the baby. She also intended to kill the mechanic at the service center because he had repaired Kellett's, which had allowed him to live. After her divorce from David, Catherine entered into a series of relationships, even more violent than the last. She had 3 children with different partners, but her abusive behavior continued. One of her partners, David Saunders, described her as the most evil person I ever met. In 1991, Knight became pregnant by 43-year-old former slaughterhouse co-worker John Chillingworth and gave birth the following year to a boy they named Eric. Their relationship lasted 3 years before she left him for a man she had been having an affair with for some time, John. In 1995, Catherine met John Charles Thomas Price. He was the father of 3 children when he began his affair with Knight. John was everything Catherine wasn't: gentle, kind, and stable. His own marriage had ended in 1988. Prince was aware of Knight's violent reputation when she moved into his house in 1995. However, his children liked her. He was making a lot of money working in the local mines. But in year 1998, Knight and Price fought over his refusal to marry her. Then in anger, she had videotape items he had apparently stolen from work and sent the videotape to his boss. Although the items were out of date medical kits that he scavenged from the company rubbish tip, Price was fired from the job he had held for 70 long years. That same day, he kicked her out and she returned to her own home. While news of what she has done spread throughout the town, a few months later, Price restarted the relationship, although he now refused to allow her to move in with him. Even most of his friends would no longer have anything to do with him while they remained together. On the night of February 29, 2000, Knight reached its boiling point. That day John Price had an argument with her, and again he tried to kick her out of his house for good. But she stayed with Price that day because she was not going to walk away quietly. She was determined to make John pay for rejecting her. What happened next is almost too horrifying to comprehend. That night, Catherine waited John to fall asleep. Then, without warning, she savagely attacked him with a knife. She stabbed him 37 times, inflicting mortal wounds across his chest, neck, and back. But this was not the beginning of Catherine's twisted plans. After John died, she took his body and skinned him, a gruesome act that would later haunt investigators. But Catherine wasn't done. After decapitating John, she proceeded to cook his body parts. In a horrible display, she made a stew out of his body, along with vegetables, and set the table for his children. The meal was intended to serve to them, but thankfully they never arrived home in time to discover the horror. Catherine attempted to clean up the crime scene, but her action only became more bizarre. She arranged the John head on a plate and put it beside the stove before calling his workplace to say he wouldn't be coming in. It wasn't long before neighbors grew suspicious of the sickening silence in the house. It was a police officer who discovered the crime scene and immediately called for the backup. It was like something out of a horror movie. No one could believe that a human being was capable of such brutality. Katherine Knight was arrested the next day. She showed no guilt for her actions, calmly admitting to what she has done. In 2001, she became the first woman in Australian history to be sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Today, Katherine Knight remains in prison. Her name forever etched in shame. Her case serves as a chilling reminder of the deaths of human immorality. Katherine Knight's case is one that will remain etched in the memory of anyone who dares to understand the mind behind such a brutal and twisted act. It is a reminder of the dangerous consequences of untreated anger, isolation, and psychological abuse. What happened to John Price is beyond comprehension, but the true horror of this case is not just in the act itself, but in how a tragic and toxic cycle led to such a violent and horrific end. Thank you for joining me on the journey into one of the most disturbing cases in criminal history. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into true crime. And remember, stay aware, stay safe, and always trust your instincts.